Tonight, a court overturns a decision to clear a Met police officer for punching a pensioner. Errol Dixon has mild dementia and ended up in hospital due to injuries sustained during a police stop. The watchdog said the officer acted in self-defence. Mr Dixon fought that decision.
I want to see justice done, some way or the other. And I hope I can survive long enough to see that happens.
Protesters gather in Croydon after police arrested and handcuffed a woman over false claims of fare evasion. Warnings over the dangers of open water at the start of the school holidays. And
did you see anyone acting suspicious?
Yeah, us.
Martin Shaw will be here to talk about the debut of his new play. Good evening. A pensioner who was punched in the face by a police officer, leaving him with a broken nose, fractured cheekbone and eye socket, says he fears he won't live long enough to see justice done. The High Court overturned a decision by the police watchdog, which had ruled that the Met police officer who punched Errol Dixon had no case to answer. They've now reopened their investigation, but 72-year-old Errol fears time is running out. Our reporter Antoine Allen first visited Errol in hospital when he was recovering from the attack and spoke to him again today in an exclusive interview. His report contains pictures of the injuries Mr Dixon received.
Try to breathe.
Struggling to breathe and suffering from broken bones. This pensioner was hospitalised by a police officer.
Try to breathe.
Mr Dixon's had a 2-year battle with the Met and the IOPC, all whilst the 72-year-old fights a cancer diagnosis.
I wouldn't expect to be beaten up by police. Right? Even if they're going to charge me for something, I wasn't expecting to be beaten up by police at my age, because I did nothing wrong.
Mr Dixon, your health conditions mean that the longer this decision process goes on, the greater the likelihood that you may not get to see an outcome. How does that make you feel?
I want to see justice done, some way or the other. And I hope I can survive long enough to see that happen. You know, if at least my family will be satisfied to know that justice has been done. I feel satisfied. But, you know, we don't know. I mean, cancer is a thing that you can just take you out at any time at once.
In 2021, Mr Dixon was inflicted with a broken nose, fractured cheekbone and traumatised after being hospitalised during a routine traffic stop by a police officer in Bromley. During the incident, an officer held Mr Dixon by his neck and punched him in the face. The officer claims Mr Dixon struck him in the eye first.
They were dangerous. I thought they were going to kill me that day for a simple traffic stop. I mean, it was crazy.
In 2022, an IOPC investigation concluded the officer acted in self-defence and had no case to answer. This month, the High Court struck down that decision, stating the IOPC misapplied the correct legal test. Mentally,
it has affected me. Like I said, I'm scared of police. I never used to be scared of police. I am scared of police now. They're supposed to be protecting you, and that's what they say, serve and protect. But it seems like they only protect certain people.
The Baroness Casey report stated the Met is still institutionally racist. Mr Dixon says as a black man he's faced racial profiling from the police before. The pensioner's solicitors consistently challenge IOPC rulings.
Sophie, you specialise in cases like this, but it's not the first time that IOPC has had a decision that's been struck down.
Decision makers at the IOPC have form for making similarly unlawful decisions. Ultimately, what that means is that the supposed independent police watchdog is failing to hold police officers to account.
The IOPC says it's assigned a new decision-maker to assess whether or not the officer who struck Mr Dixon should face disciplinary action. Antoine Allen, ITV News.
Well, we've just had a response from the Metropolitan Police who say our officers understand that actions will be scrutinised and use of force must be proportionate and reasonable, and await the IOPC's decision following the new investigation. Well, the Met are still facing scrutiny after footage of on social media showed officers arresting a black woman who they mistakenly thought hadn't paid her bus fare. Well, people are gathering now outside Croydon Police Station in protest, and Kath Okpata is there for us. Kath, what are people there saying?
Yes, Charlene, the video you described, it's been shared widely across social media. Lots of people have been describing and expressing their anger. But here in Croydon, where everything took place, tensions have been brewing for the last few days. And you can see behind me the results of that anger. Right now, I'm going to bring in Mel Mullings. Mel's the organiser of this protest. Mel, why are you here today and what are you trying to achieve?
We're here today to make sure that community policing stays like that. We don't want any racism in our community. We don't want to leave out of our house, take a bus, take a tube, take a train, trying to get from A to B and being racially profiled, abused, an abuse of power and just treated like dirt. We don't want that.
Of course, some people, they'd argue that the Mets were right to step in, especially since there was this allegation of fare evasion. But you have a problem with the approach they took and the police involvement, is that right?
Yes, the process is if there was a need for police to step in, they would have been asked to step in. The police didn't need to come in at that particular point. The woman had paid her fare and at that point there was a vulnerable young person involved as well. There should have been a better approach and we got to make sure that there's answers for this. That person needs to be suspended and decisive action taken and change made right now.
I've been speaking to some of the protesters here today and quite a few of them have similar experience to what happened in the video we saw. Do you think TfL needs to take some action to avoid situations like this, not just the Met Police?
Absolutely. We'll be doing Croydon Carnival this week. We will also be in Notting Hill Carnival. They'll be there showing that they're a diverse institution and that they understand diversity, celebrating Windrush 75. So then therefore 75 years of communities coming into this country and contributing and they don't know how to treat us. I think that enough excuses.
Of course, this is yet another blow to the Met's reputation with communities like this. They have a lot of things that they are trying to put forward. Do you think it's enough?
What are they putting forward? They're putting forward racists who are coming into our communities and abusing our members of the community. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think that we should be gaslit. I think we need to know that what the reality of what we say it is what it is, and that steps need to be taken accordingly.
Of course, the Met Police Commissioner, Mark Rowley, did say that the Met Police isn't institutionally racist when the Baroness Casey report came out. But do you feel like this shows that that isn't the case?
I know what I'm saying. I know what my community speaks, and we need to be heard. And if we have people that are in positions of power that want to deny things, we need to get rid of them.
Thank you very much, Mel. Now, the Met earlier today have said that they will be referring this case to the IOPC, so it's now up to them to decide what happens and if any further action needs to be taken.
OK, Kath, thanks very much for that. The Elizabeth Line is responsible for 140,000 new journeys each day. That's according to TfL. The new line is also attracting thousands of passengers from the Tube. More than a third of those who've switched prefer it to the Central Line. And an investigation is underway after a number of offensive Barbie-themed posters appeared on London bus stops targeting Conservative MPs. The images used derogatory language and focused on the government's immigration policy. They're placed behind glass advert panels, but it's unclear who opened them. TfL say the posters weren't authorised by them or their advertising partner. Police investigating the murder of an 18-year-old man in Wembley have made another arrest. Milton Hurlington was stabbed to death on Monday last week. An 18-year-old man has become the 9th person to be arrested on suspicion of his murder. Next tonight, school may be out, but many parents are looking ahead to the looming costs of new school uniforms. Changes to the Education Act last year meant schools in England are supposed to help cut the costs of kit by promoting cheaper second-hand options or removing branded clothing. But if we take a look at the yearly costs of the average school uniform, parents are spending up to £120 on coats, blazers and bags, £125 on sports boots and shoes, more than £40 on skirts and dresses, and the same on jumpers and ties. So it's still costing parents around £422 per year, forcing many to turn to charities for help, as Toby Sadler reports.
For many of these parents, this is the only way they'll be able to afford school uniform. They pay £4 on the door, then they can take what they like.
Well, a cost of living crisis, that come really at the wrong time for us. I've got a 3-year-old and a new baby, so school uniform is quite pricey for us.
Oh, we had loads of Goodyear Park. I'm so glad you took some.
Yeah. We can spend hundreds on new clothes, and instead of spending hundreds, it's £4 to come in. You can get some clothes for the boys for the next year, and you're saving literally hundreds.
The pop-up shop is run by the charity Smile London and Essex.
So Maria, show me around.
Yeah, so this is where all the donations come in during the event. Organised chaos, which we love. So we're going to work through this when it gets quieter, then they'll get put onto the rail. So this is the senior school shop. So we have a selection of shoes. More of them is going to go out in a minute. And then we have all the blazers. We've got PE kit attached to the right schools. So these are all different schools in Havering, Barking and Dagenham.
Last year, they helped more than 500 families and expect more to come this time. They've been doing this since 2017, but only have enough money to survive until the new year.
But unfortunately, as much as our demand goes up, our funds go down. So we are an unbalanced service at the moment. More people need us. And those people used to donate to us, and now they're in the point where they're having to come to us for support. So we are working on a very low budget right now.
The law changed last year, forcing schools to reduce branded items in the uniform, but crucially, they weren't banned.
And we are encouraging parents to contact their school and ask them if they're following the guidance and bringing the cost down, or if they don't get a satisfactory response from their school, to contact the Department for Education directly and have them investigate it.
Even if schools are playing by the rules, the new school uniform can cost hundreds of pounds, so for many, this will be the only option. Toby Sadler, ITV News.
The father of a 14-year-old boy who drowned in a lock in Teddington last summer says he doesn't want to see what happened to his son happen to any other young person in London. So with more kids spending time by open water over the holidays, the London Fire Brigade has issued a warning about the risks, especially since the number of drownings doubled in the capital in 2022 compared to the previous year, as Daniel Henry reports.
This is dangerous. Fortunately, Adam was around to tell them why.
Sorry, just want to make sure you're all right, but it's not a place I would advise you swimming.
What if you guys weren't here?
Well, hopefully, you know, you've got the police, other agencies, we're doing it together, aren't we, other local authorities. There are actual signs, you can see it, but they, you know, young people will be young people, so you can just keep getting that education message out, keep getting across how dangerous this river is to swim. I mean, it doesn't even look like it's moving there, but you don't know what's underneath the surface.
Beautiful. Grab onto it.
Today, the London Fire Brigade were showing people how they can help others who get into trouble in the water. They know the summer months mean more calls to places like this. So Adam, are there any circumstances in which it's safe to swim in the river?
Not in the River Thames, I would say. It's not a swimming river. It's not a safe river from here down, all the way down to the sea. It's tidal, big flows, lots of hazards underneath, and the temperature is cold.
There are more of these throw lines along our rivers now, but they won't save everyone.
Brian was a lovely teenage boy who is growing up very nicely.
Brian Sassu drowned around this time last year. He was 14 years old.
It's kind of difficult, very difficult. We've been through a lot. It's just a parent's nightmare to hear about your teenage son. It's just a normal teenage, but it's a parent's nightmare to go through that. And I don't want any parents to go through what we're going. It's quite difficult.
We've been here this afternoon and seen people still trying to get into the river, still trying to jump into the river. What do you say to people like that?
I would tell them don't, because it can be very dangerous. You might not even know what's underneath of the water. So I would say don't even do it. If you have peer pressure with your mate, don't do it.
The London Fire Brigade say they want Londoners to take their message seriously, because no one knows how dangerous the water really is until it's too late. Daniel Henry, ITV News.
Still to come in the programme, it's a bumper night for London's theatre scene. Martin Shaw switches screen for stage with a new comedy. And the globally acclaimed choreographer turning his attention to hip-hop in the capital.
Hey.
But before that, residents in Hounslow are in uproar after a so-called monster mast was built on a playing field behind their homes. The council say they did hold a consultation period about the 65-foot 5G structure during lockdown, though some families in Boston Manor say they were never consulted and they want it removed, as Sam Holder reports.
From living rooms, kitchens and attics, there's one thing dominating the view on Boston Gardens. A 20-metre high 5G mast built right at the edge of their homes. It's the size of 4.5 double-decker buses stacked on top of each other. Those living here say they had no idea it was coming until the diggers arrived.
It's more of a little tinge of sadness or upset. The size of it, the scale, the fact it's bare steel. It's out on its own in the middle of the field. It's not been camouflaged or built in any sort of sympathetic way that helps it blend in with the surroundings.
Hounslow Council say they sent out letters to 23 homes back in 2020 and had 4 objections. Those living in direct eye line of the mast say those letters never arrived.
I didn't actually receive any notification letter. It's something that I would have acted on immediately. And several of my immediate neighbours that I've spoken to, none of them recall receiving a letter. And again, it's something that they too would have acted on immediately. And so we feel quite let down by Hounslow Council.
The mast is on a large playing field, but despite the fact there are no houses on the opposite side and there's a column of trees that could have helped hide it, the tower was built at the closest possible spot to where people live. MBNL, who put in the mast, said when determining a location, finding the right balance between delivering the service and capacity which customers want and expect, alongside planning regulations and aesthetic expectations, is never easy. The local MP says councils have little say about positioning. The power lies with the companies, and she wants to change the law.
It just feels to me like these utilities companies and infrastructure providers just seem to ride roughshod over local communities. I'm not saying don't do things at all. I'm saying just think about the community, and if you can modify where you put something, what it looks like, how it works, just do that a little bit.
There's an understanding here that masts are necessary for phone coverage, but locals can't understand why it's been put in such a prominent position with no effort to conceal it. They fear now their houses will become unsellable. Sam Holder, ITV News.
Now, our guest tonight is an actor who needs very little introduction.
I took an oath to serve justice and the sovereign, not government hacks. One of the strongest principles of the British Constitution is that no sort of influence be brought to bear upon judges by the executive. I am a servant of the Crown, but it's not a master-servant relationship. The Crown has
From tackling crime as Doyle in The Professionals to fighting injustice as Judge John Deed, and then as a North East Inspector George Gently. Martin Shaw's one of TV's best-loved faces, and now you're heading back to the stage in a play called Alone Together at the Theatre Royal in Windsor. You've been rehearsing today, haven't you? How's it been going?
Yeah, I've come straight from there, yeah.
And how's it been going so far?
It's terrific. I mean, it's always tense because it's that whole thing about creating something, you think, and especially if it's completely new. Yeah. And this is a totally new play, which is quite rare nowadays, you know. Okay. And Windsor is a perfect place to put it on.
Yeah. So tell us, what's the play about?
Right. It's about a marriage that has come under great pressure through a bereavement. Yeah. And the married couple have drifted apart, and in the play itself, it's like there's plate glass between us. It's very witty,
yeah,
and so there are moments where they don't understand each other, and especially the character that I'm playing, he's walled himself off from reality because of the bereavement, and from his wife, and they're going in opposite directions, and they're very different. So they're often speaking at cross purposes.
Okay.
And that can be very funny because the audience knows what's happening and what should be the result of the conversation, but the two protagonists don't.
And you get to work alongside Jenny Seagrove, don't you? Your former TV co-star. Is it nice to be teaming up with her again?
Oh, it's wonderful. We always like working together. We're old comrades, you know, and we've known each other and worked together probably for 25 years.
Wow.
And her partner, Bill Kenwright, who was the producer, has been one of my closest friends for 40 years.
So is it like working with family?
Oh, it's exactly like working with family.
That's really nice. Now, of course, so many people know you, of course, from the stage, because you've been doing it for so long, and of course, from the TV as well. And we showed some of the TV shows that you're most famous for. But I have to ask you, what is your preference, Martin?
You know, I do often get asked that, and it's always the other one. So if I'm filming a lot and working 14 hours a day filming, I think, oh God, I can't wait to get on stage. And then as soon as I finish the stage show, I think I want to get back on the camera. You know, the immediacy of the 2-minute take and then what's next. But the great thing about the theatre is you have to sustain it for 2 hours or more. You know.
Now, I know that you moved to London when you were 18 because you went to LAMDA, didn't you? So your association with the capital goes far back. Are there any particular places that forever stay in your heart that you love?
Well, not necessarily love, but bring back a lot of memories. On the way here from Windsor, I passed through Shepherd's Bush, which is where I had my first tiny little flat in Shepherd's Bush, which has changed a lot. But I love places like, I love the countryside and open spaces. So I love Hampstead Heath and all of those places. Yeah. But there are, you know, I've lived all over London. I lived in Islington and Stoke Newington. But frankly, I couldn't wait to go into the country and live in the country. I couldn't wait to do it. And I've lived in the country for maybe 30 years. Oh,
well, we missed you, Martin. So it's lovely to have you back doing stuff over at Windsor. And it's been a joy having you in the studio.
Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you. Now, next tonight, Cisco Gomez has worked with the likes of Taylor Swift, One Direction and Take That, and produced global TV shows like The X Factor and The Voice. So although you may not know his name, you'll certainly recognise this Londoner's work. And he's back in his hometown, turning his talents to a new hip-hop theatre production. Rags Martel went to meet him.
To the front, please. Ready? 5, 6, and a 7, and an 8, and a sheet.
When hip-hop starts,
up, down, hey!
You don't stop.
And we groove to the kitty, to the front. Hey! Hey!
When you come to see Frey, it's an explosion of dance. It's a celebration of the hip-hop culture amongst other styles. And we want it to be like, look, hip-hop has a place in the theatre too. It's not all about ballet. It's not all about contemporary. It's not all about immersive theatre. It's about Frey.
Frey is a dance performance about two brothers growing up. But hip-hop rarely makes it from street to stage.
There's many reasons why hip-hop gets ignored. I think mainly it's because it's a culture that never got to see the light of day. It grew up in the streets, that's where it came from. And, you know, these shows like ballet shows and stuff like that, it's very white-oriented. So when people of colour try to, you know, have a piece of the pie, we just don't get the same chances. So it's amazing that we get to be in Wilton's Music Hall to really show and celebrate hip-hop dance.
But you know this bit? Boom, man,
Cisco Gomez is the show's choreographer, and his instructions come with beatbox intonations.
Yes, the chi-chi-wah. You know what I mean? Like, you want to feel the power.
Don't say I did, say I did warn you.
Born in London, Gomez has become one of the most famous choreographers in the world, sharing the stage with the likes of Taylor Swift and Madonna at Wembley. His show credits include The X Factor,
Francisco Gomez,
and he was even a judge
love, love, love.
on the Ukrainian version of So You Think You Can Dance. Where does this rank in your long and successful career?
Frey for me is a full circle moment because a lot of people don't know that I actually started with hip-hop theatre. So to now be producing and choreographing a hip-hop theatre show at this stage of my career is fantastic because obviously I'm the commercial king. You know, I did so many stuff with X Factor, with The Voice, so it's nice to come back home.
Dancers, go for this one!
Frey is on at Wilton's Music Hall in East London until tomorrow. Rags Martel, ITV News, Whitechapel.
Sally's joins in the studio, and it was lovely today.
Well, it was, and it should be quite nice tomorrow as well. But I've got a little quiz for you, Charlene.
OK.
So, average rainfall for July is usually 47 millimetres in London. How many do you reckon we've had so far?
Oh, like 55.
That's what I would have thought, but no, we've actually had 43. Now, we've got a bit more rain coming tomorrow night, so we're on target probably to go slightly wet on average, but it's not been the complete washout it feels like.
Yeah.
Sunshine, above or below average?
Definitely below average in July.
Yeah, 60% of our normal sunshine so far with a week to go. And then temperatures above or below average?
Below?
Yep, you're right, about half a degree below average so far.
Okay.
It's going to warm up a tiny bit, but not above average.
Oh,
but
great.
you know, actually, as you know, I quite like it, this temperature. Anyway, here's all the details. Let's take a look.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello again. I hope you had a lovely day. Now, I'm not sure who's going to end up worse off here, the woodpecker or the flower pot. Good luck to both of them. Weather-wise, we've got not a bad day tomorrow. It's mostly dry with some sunny spells, particularly in the morning. However, into the evening, it turns wet and there's rain overnight as well. So pretty damp as we start Thursday, but that should improve. And you'll notice it's just going to feel a little bit warmer. So let's take a look at the detail for tonight. A lot of those showers fading away, a few pockets of sunshine to end the day, and those skies continuing to clear as we go overnight through to tomorrow morning. So a bit like last night, a little bit fresher as we start the day tomorrow. We should stay up in the low teens in the towns and cities, but maybe down to single figures in the countryside. But as we start tomorrow, plenty of bright weather and some lovely sunshine to get Wednesday going. As we go through the day, we'll see a little bit more cloud bubbling up and things turning hazier from the west as well as more cloud moves from there, making its way eastwards. Our temperatures, though, doing quite well in any sunshine, highs of 20 to 24. As we head into the evening, that breeze freshens up and you can see behind me that rain starts to move in from west to east and overnight as well. There might be some heavy bursts at times on it. And it lingers a little bit as we start Thursday morning, starting the day off on a bit of a grey, dull note with some residual drizzle around. Now, Thursday should improve, but we can't still rule out some showers into the afternoon. Friday, however, looks generally a bit drier, maybe an isolated shower here or there, and a little bit changeable still as we head into the weekend. And watch out for a bit more humidity, particularly on Thursday. See you later on. Cheerio.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Well, that's it from us. The ITV News at 6:30 is up next with Mary, of course. But now, for all of us, from all of us on the London team, you enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.